Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar and call me on the phone. And they call me and they say, "Hey, man, what's your show about anyway?" I say, "It's about an hour about guitar players, guitar playing, and all things guitaristic." So if you want to call me on the phone and ask me a question about, the care and feeding of your guitar, how to play the guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, maybe some related topic like the guitarrón, the sitar, the guitarra, chitolas, lutes, vihuelas, banjos, balalaikas, bazookies, bajos, sextos, tiples, cavaquinhos, ukuleles, banjolales, banjolins, and mandolins, and mandoras, and mandolas, and mandocellos.
A, C, and B flat clarinets.
A, C, and B flat clarinets. We still don't know why they have B flat clarinets. But anyway, trombones, trombomarinas, clarinets, and clavinets, and clavinovas, and I don't know, pipe organs and piccolos, accordions, ocarinas, trombones, trombomarinas, timpanis, and timbales. Anything you can make music on, I suppose.
Xylophones and zithers?
Xylophones and zithers, yeah, sure, why not? Auto harps, or pixie harps, or mouth harps, or let's say harmoniums, harpsichords, and harmonicas. But anyway, yeah, stuff like that.
So tell us about that guitar.
Oh yeah. Well, also yeah, politics, world events, your own personality problems. You call, we're here for you, but keep it clean. It's a family program. All right, this is my GK Pro. It's a Cordoba, and I've learned much about the Cordoba company when I got this guitar months ago. I've had it on the show a few times before. It's an electric flamenco guitar from, and I thought it was from Spain. I think it said it was from Spain on the internets. But this one's actually Chinese. It's really high quality Chinese. And it's so it's an electric nylon string guitar with a, hang on, I'm just gonna do this real quick. Yeah, maybe that was loose, I don't know. Sorry. It's gonna rattle. It has a Fishman blender pickup in it, so it has a saddle pickup, which is a transducer, I guess. It takes the vibration and turns it into a weak electrical signal, which goes in the amplifier. But it also has a microphone, a little microphone, not unlike the kind that a newscaster wear on their lapel, inside the guitar itself, so that picks up the sound. So it has a kind of a nice. Get rid of it. Something's a little loose and it rattles. So I started jiggling this around, just, it started to rattle while I was playing the intro. Anyway, I think I got it fixed. Anyway, so other than that, it's an electric flamenco guitar. It has an alpine spruce top, European spruce top, and the sides and back are cypress from Spain. And that's the flamenco wood. It's very lightly built. If anybody watches my show regularly or watched it, a couple of years ago, my big thing was my Gypsy Kings guitar, which I had played, for 10 years. I had it out. I played a gig like 3, 4, 5 gigs a week sometimes with the thing for 10 years, and the neck went this way. It was compressed at the heel, went this way. And the guy said he couldn't really fix it. He could take it apart and rebuild it. It'd be extremely expensive and never be quite the same. And this caused me a lot of consternation. And then not only that, but I had this big rack of guitars that was so heavy that the slat board that they're hung on gave way. And a rather heavy but nice electric, solid by electric guitar fell on my Gypsy Kings and bashed it over in the lower bout. So it's bashed in there. That guitar is now hanging on the wall as an ornament. And it was very similar to this one, only it was only a thin line, so it was a much thinner body. But it had the microphone and the pickup, the Fishman blender system, and it was made in Spain. And so I got this one, after a couple of years of mourning and going through a bunch of other guitars and doing things. But it's a flamenco. It's lightly built. It's designed for like. on a second. Anyway, this guitar does that sort of thing pretty well. It's like, it's a little lighter than a classical guitar, and also have the microphone in it makes it a little bit more realistic, you know, when it's plugged in to an amp, you know, as opposed to, you know, some of the other electric nylon string guitars without the microphone in them just have the you know, the pickup under the saddle, the transducer or whatever it does. You can get interesting, good sounds, but you can't get quite the same thing. So I've been on this endless quest to try to get the better sound. Some kid young fellow, a ninth grader, actually had to ask me some questions for some project he had for one of his classes. And his second question to me was, what goal do you have in life? And it's pretty
Keep
obvious.
playing guitar?
Well, I just want to sound better. That's all I want. I want to sound better, because don't always sound as, well, I don't sound as good as I want to. I want to sound better. And I was just, and I've been thinking about that earlier that day. I was hanging around guitar shops a bit yesterday. I had a few hours off, and I went to Musician's Pro Shop, and then I went to the Pawn Shop, and then I went to West Music. And my only quest, of course, was to try to sound better. So this is fresh in my mind when later in the day, a young fellow came for his lesson, and then he had to ask me a few questions on his way out the door for his project. And so I told him I want to sound better. And then I was thinking about that, like earlier when I was at these other guitar shops, I was talking to another guitar player and teacher, Gayla Drake. She plays gigs too, and she teaches. And we're just talking about that, and I was saying, well, I really kind of envy somebody who has like one guitar and like one sound that they use, and that's all they do. She's mentioning Dennis McMurrin, Daddy-O McMurrin, he lives in Cedar Rapids. He plays in Iowa City quite a bit, and he's been at it for a long time. He's even older than I am, and he's been at it. But he has an old Gibson ES 335. I don't know. I think I heard a story about when he acquired it, but I think he's had it since he was a kid, maybe since a teenager or something like that. He has a Fender amp, probably from the 60s. Maybe he got it new, I don't know. But that's all he plays, So to me, I'm thinking about ES 335s. I have two copies of Gibson ES 335s. One's an Epiphone, which I kind of like. I've had it on the show a couple of times. And then I have an Ibanez copy of one. And I kind of like the knobs that you twist on the top. They're like really cool knobs, but I don't really get the sound I want out of it, So I was talking to one of the guys in the guitar shop about it, and he brought out this set of like hand-wound custom pickups I could replace and swap out. And they were like the earlier Gibson pickups, the humbuckers. And they're $300 for the pair. So you stick those in there, and it'd be better. But then I'd have these wonderful hand-wound $300 pickups in an Ibanez. So it makes me think, oh, maybe I could get like a real Gibson ES 335. That's the one that B.B. King plays. That's that guitar. And then I think, no, I don't need it. Because I've just, I've been on this Stratocaster binge for a while. I have a whole bunch of Stratocasters now, of different kinds, and made in different countries. And, anyway. But see, I want it to sound a little better. And among those two 335s, the Epiphone actually sounds pretty nice, and it's kind of fun to play, and everything is fun. It's not the real thing, but it's, So I think, well, I can get an ES 335 sound, but if I got a real Gibson ES 335, it would probably sound better. And that's the whole point of my life, is try to sound better. There's also, of course, practicing and stuff, actually being able to play a guitar. But I am somewhat envious of people who only need one. So you have one guitar, one amplifier, none of these pedals, just a cable.
Like that fine piece of equipment Willie Nelson plays.
Yeah. Well, Willie Nelson has a hole in his guitar. But, so many years ago, I had this gig where I was demonstrating Martin guitars for Martin clinics. So they'd have a salesman who'd go out there and tell the history of Martin, and everybody get bored and say, like, get the guy off the stage. We want to see the guitars, My job was to play them. And so I'd be there with like 15 Martins, different kinds. And the guy would talk about them, and I'd play something on them. And so one of the things the guy said was, and it's a question and answer thing, is about Willie Nelson, and Martin offered to build Willie Nelson a special Willie Nelson's guitar with mother of pearl all over it, beautiful thing, just for Willie. He didn't want it. He wanted his guitar with a hole in it. And I know he had tax issues.
That's his image. Yeah.
That's right. It goes on with his ponytail and smoking weed all the time.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, it's Willie, but he just wants that guitar with a hole in it. You know, that's who he is. But me, I'm kind of promiscuous. You see, I have to,
Different guitar every week.
yeah. Oh, different guitars during the day. You know.
Yeah.
Go from different.
Well, we only see you once a week.
That's true. Well, I have to live with me all the time, and so you know, I might be. I have that Ibanez on a stand, you know, within easy reach of my chair that I sit at, and an ES-335 copy. It's yellow. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. I got it home. I played it, and it's like it's okay, but you know, I should put new.
You can still sound better.
It could sound better, and I could sound better playing something else. And that's the problem, see, and that it never seems to end. But then again, as the poet said, you know, the poet Bob Dylan, he who is not busy being born is busy dying. Okay. It's easy to see without looking too far that he who is not busy being born is busy dying. So, yeah. He also said, you got a lot of nerve to say you are my friend. When I was down, you just stood there grinning. Anyway, never mind.
Anyway, speaking of seeing you, if someone wanted to, where could they do that?
Well, pretty tame little week for me this week. Tuscan Moon Saturday night. There's a slight chance I'll be there Friday night, but Tuscan Moon in beautiful downtown Kelowna. By the way, if anybody wants a guitar player on Friday night someplace, let me know. I'll be looking for something
Looking
to
for a
do.
Friday night gig, yeah?
Yeah, well, I went all gangbusters looking for gigs, and then I get tired of it. You walk in the door, and this guy walks in the door with a guitar looking for a gig. They figure it's a singer-songwriter. You know, they don't. They give you the cold shoulder. They say, no, man, I just want to play pretty music in the corner.
Yeah.
It'll make your food taste better. You know, sell more drinks. But anyway, so Saturday night, Tuscan Moon, 6:30-ish till maybe, I don't know, as late as it goes. Maybe only 9:30, maybe 9:15. It's kind of slow this time of year. And then Sunday at the Journey Church in Coralville, it's going to be kind of a big shindig. The preacher down there, Chuck, he's going to get ordained officially. He was a Methodist minister for like 25 years or something like that, but he jumped ship to the UCC, or the United Church of Christ, and so he's been, you know, operating under a temporary permit or something. So the bigwig, I guess they don't have bishops in that denomination, but if they're the closest thing to a bishop they have, the bigwig, the Grand Poobah in Des Moines, will be there. And I was joking about ruining everything by taking my Flying V guitar, you know. He said, yeah, bring it. So I'll be playing my Flying V. So it starts, you know,
Play a little headbanger music?
no, I'll probably just play my sort of jazz type stuff, but the usual kind of thing I'd play on an electric guitar, but with humbuckers. Sorry, it's tone. It's tone. It looks funny, but the tone is, you know, okay. But anyway, so he's going to, the regular church service is like from like 10:30 to 11:30 or something like that. But then there's going to be a potluck, you know, from like noon to 1:30, and then they're going to have another sort of ceremony. I was joking about the white dove descending upon him, you know, from heaven. But that's from, you know.
Well, they did that for Mohammed, so.
Well, they did that for Jesus when
Yeah.
he was baptized by John the Baptist, and so. And then this sky opened up, and a white dove thing descended upon his head.
This is my son in whom I'm well pleased.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. And I'm not religious myself. I've studied these things and been to lots of church services myself. I've studied the scriptures and the Bible and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita and stuff. But everybody's got their own like thing going, and it's all kind of related. So anyway, so I guess I'm going to hang around, and he promised I could be home at 3 because I have to teach a lesson at 3. So I'll be there from like 10 until 2:30, I guess. I guess you could get free food if you want. I guess you could go late for the church service, and you could get the free food, and then you could leave before you. So anyway,
I considered the Presbyterians for a while.
Yeah.
When they die, their soul goes up on the roof.
actually, that's Presbyterian. That's pretty good. Yeah. my buddy Radislav and I were, years ago, were talking about starting a religion, but I can't really tell you what it is because it's a little vulgar, but there was a guy who found himself in deep distress. He had, his girlfriend had found herself in the family way, and she didn't want to marry him, but she wanted to have the baby and have him pay child support for the next 18 years. And he was a waiter in a restaurant very few people went to, impoverished fellow.
Yeah.
And we were all sitting at a house, and it had a lot of sofas in the living room. It was like a rooming house. People were there. And one guy, because he got tired of people drinking his beer, found an old pop machine. And he got like some cheap beer.
So you could pay for the beer?
Yeah, so he put it in the pop machine, and he put a quarter in. It was like this very inexpensive beer from Dubuque. And so you could say they had a beer machine in the kitchen. And people were always there, drinking beer, hanging out. And that's where I learned how to play the bass guitar initially. It was the gray bass that they had passing around there. But so the guy comes in, and sits down on the couch. He's holding his head. I'm in deep, and I can't say it. And then he started holding himself like this, and then people started laughing because he was so, it's so funny to watch him that way. I don't think I laughed. I hope I didn't. Maybe I did. I don't know. So we were talking about getting a bus, a tent we could set up and have these rallies. We'd set up all these sofas, and everybody would get down and hold their heads and say, "We're in deep," and then together that would be our mantra. And we're in deep. Anyway, it wasn't cruel. I wonder how that's all going. That was a long time ago. That kid would be.
Kid's grown by now, huh?
Oh yeah, long since. Wonder what happened to that guy. Oh well. Anyway, so well, that's the gospel hour here at Tom's Guitar Show. But so that's what I'll be Sunday.
Great intro for you playing in a church Sunday. But
That's right. Well, it's a pretty liberal church.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, well, there was a guy who was there, and he was gay. And he was in a couple of them with another guy who was actually from India. And had been a Hindu, but I don't think he was religious, engineer guy. And then the other guy was an American guy, and he'd been married to a woman, early in his life, and had kids, and they're all grown up and stuff like that. But the guy, the American guy, this couple was had grown up in the Baptist church, Southern Baptist, and he'd been basically disowned by some members of his family and excommunicated by his church and so forth when he came out as gay. So he was there, and I don't think his partner or his spouse or whatever, because I think they were married, the guy who had been a Hindu, I don't think he particularly cared about any kind of religion. He certainly didn't know much about Christianity and didn't care about it. But he was there, to support his partner. And anyway, that was so they found a welcoming. See, this place welcomes people who maybe wouldn't belong in other, communities and so forth. So that's something. Some people need to,
yeah.
I guess I need to play guitar there on Sundays, so that's where I'm there. But anyway, it's all very nice and progressive. So anyway, I think that's the reason this guy left this Methodism, is because they wouldn't marry gay people. Now the preacher, he's married to a woman and everything.
Yeah.
Has kids and grandchildren and everything like that. But I think he wants to be all inclusive. So, and anyway, so more power to him, I guess. We all got to get along, and people need something. Some people need guitar music, I guess. So,
So there you are, and you just happen to have a guitar.
I do. And I was making this loop before the show started, and I introed with it.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah. I'll get that looper down. There we go. Down by my feet. There. This is a TC Electronics Ditto looper. This is the gold one, and it's actually on sale. It was the last one they had in Cedar Rapids, and I just happened to have some money in my pocket, so I bought it for no reason, because I have the gray one also. I have a bunch of loopers. I have quite a collection of loopers, but anyway. So I made this. There's a little green light blinking. I'm just going to go and play this.
And a looper records what you play into it and then plays it back.
Right. So speaking of where I'm playing, next Tuesday is the last Tuesday of January already. And that's normally when we have the Tom's Guitar Show from Uptown Bill's. And I'm saying that's normally because I'm going through a period of doubt about this month's show because Bob here is going to abandon us for warmer climates. We hope. I mean, we hope it's going to be warmer in Las Vegas.
Certainly hope so.
I know that
There have been some years when there wasn't that much difference in the temperature here and there, but
there was an imam who issued a statement that said that snowmen are un-Islamic because they had some snow in Saudi Arabia and people are making snowmen, and that's a graven image. It's idolatry.
Ah.
So you can't make a snowman in Saudi Arabia. And apparently this problem hasn't come up very often. So that happened recently. So weather can do all kinds of strange things these days. Yeah. 2014 was the hottest year in beyond recorded history, as far as we can tell. Maybe for 5,000 years, maybe for 2,000 years, scientists like to make sure they're absolutely right, and so they can't tell you for sure. But it was. They say not only was the hottest year on record, but it's like the hottest year for 5,000 years, as far as I could tell. So anyway, and so people say, well, why did it snow in Saudi Arabia if it's the hottest year? Because weather's like become very unpredictable. Yeah. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So the thing is, so you're going to leave us for Vegas, and Snowbird for us, be our Las Vegas correspondent. So at least you'll be still useful to the cause. But that leaves the two-man crew. There wasn't a band called the Two-Man Crew, was it? Anyway, never mind. Yeah,
Two Live Crew.
A Two Live Crew, okay. Well, this is a Two Live Crew to a One Live Crew. Mr. Skopinski here, who we were hoping he'd read some poetry to break up the monotony next week.
They were the guys who went after Tipper Gore after she put the stickers on CDs.
Oh, yeah. All right, yeah. Well, we'll have no violent music. Yeah. Probably not. Anyway, do you remember there's a cartoon about El Kabong?
Sure.
Somebody.
El Kabong and Babalooey, and
Babalooey.
El Kabong was like Batman. I can't remember. It was a horse.
He's the sheriff. He's a horse.
Yeah, I can't remember what the horse's real name was because it was one of those secret identity things.
Yeah. So
but El Kabong was his masked superhero identity.
That's right. And then he'd like go into a telephone booth and spin around or something, come out with his mask, and his weapon of choice was a guitar. Yeah. And he would knock it over people's heads and break it through, and they'd say kabong. So it's El Kabong. Yeah. I actually found one episode on YouTube once. I should probably look at that again. I heard that it helped guitar sales because people would break guitars. But actually, you could probably hurt somebody try to break a guitar. Even a nice, lightly built nylon string like this, but certainly a solid body. Yeah. Les Pauls are actually quite heavy, by the way. They have a maple top on top of a mahogany body, and they're quite heavy. Yeah. They're like a 12-pound guitar, and very hard and solid. But anyway, why did I bring that up? I was talking about how I wasn't sure. Oh yeah, no violence. Anyway.
No Saxon violins?
No Saxon violins on my show, no. Just a guitar, occasional banjo. Yeah. So I'm trying to decide whether I want to do it because next week would be at Uptown Bill's Coffee House, and and Mr. Skopinski would do a little bit of reading, and I would play it. Maybe we'd have young Tom share some wisdom. We won't have you though, and I also wouldn't have anybody run cameras, I guess. And if
so, if there's anybody out there that wants to learn how to run a TV station
in a hurry.
PATV is looking for volunteers.
Well, actually, there are probably a whole lot of people out there who have taken the workshops and stuff but never did anything. And they're out there, wasting away. But I'm thinking about just not doing the show from upstairs next week, or maybe do it and figure out some way. But if I have a crew member of one, somebody's going to have to do the directing, and somebody should move the camera occasionally. So, I don't know. See, we haven't had any interns. School started, as you say, today. So usually we get college students and people, and so no interns, no volunteers. I don't want to put upon the staff, make them work. So I'm going to try to decide. I haven't decided yet, because there's something I kind of want to do, which is, well, I'm thinking about that, and I'm babbling incoherently, and everybody by now has changed the channel. But my other idea was that there's a faculty recital at Coe College on February 6th, and I'm about the lowest form of faculty that they have up there. I teach very part-time in room 217 down the hall in Marquee Hall, which is a room I share on alternate days with a viola teacher. So, yeah, they're viola player jokes, they're like the Belgium of the orchestra, So,
But the good one we probably can't tell on TV.
yeah. Well, we can't. Yeah, I can't tell those. I can't tell a viola joke on TV. I'd like to, but I can't. Family show. But anyway, so I'm on the faculty. I'm going to play at that recital, and I have. I originally, like in the last recital, last semester, faculty recital, I approached my boss, Dr. Carson. I just call him Bill because he's DMA's in music, so. If you have a sprained ankle, don't ask a musicologist. Anyway, never mind. He plays clarinet. I was going to play some choro music from Brazil, some really lively Brazilian music. But he said you don't want to practice because he's there pecking away at his computer, like rapt attention. And I was trying to see if he wanted to, because we talked about doing it. And he actually even showed me a book he had of choro music, which has you have to transpose for B flat clarinet, and then of course the guitar.
No, I don't know, but
Well, guitar is a C instrument.
I'm sure that means something to people who understand music.
Clarinets are like a whole step off from like the rest of us, or trumpets and people, they're like a whole step off from us string players. Because see, we have the real notes, and they're a half step. They're a whole step off. So he had to transpose the music. So he wanted it to be easy, and I guess he didn't want to rehearse. And this stuff is pretty lively, difficult stuff. It's challenging. So, and then I couldn't get a hold of the string bass teacher I wanted to. There's a string bass teacher up there that doesn't have any students. So, however lowly I may be, I'm, at least I have some students. Anyway, I couldn't get a hold of him. And so it's just going to be me. So I said, what am I going to do that'd be outrageous and weird? Last one I did, I think I played this guitar. I played a classical guitar piece, and I played another piece, like a little bit more contemporary thing. And then I played Malagueña on the ukulele. I had a stagehand bring me out a ukulele, and I finished the show. And I was the last one on the program. And then that's pretty kinky. I mean, playing the ukulele at a faculty recital. So so this time I was going to do this accompany these other guys, And
Well, at least you didn't play Tiptoe Through the Tulips.
no. Tiny Tim ruined the ukulele for a generation. Anyway, so I thought what I'd do is I'd start out with the guitar. I think I'm going to head out on the show. It's a smaller body electric nylon string guitar. I call it the art of looping because I've run up with I've got this collection of loops that I've worked on, and I actually did a record. I was going to call it the art of looping, but people told me to call it Table for Two, so I could sell it for my my restaurant thing. It's like a
Background music.
well, I was going to say smooth jazz, but I can't say that. So anyway, so I had this. I was going to call that record "The Art of Looping," and then these cooler heads prevailed and said, "Call it Table for Two." And then the artwork on it is like a little table with some flowers on it or something, and tablecloth and napkins or something. And so anyway, so I've been collecting these, and I've been thinking about them as the art of looping, because my looping art is just a guitar duet. I know I've done all kinds of overdubs. You can layer a bunch of parts. And there are much more sophisticated loopers. I've actually kind of intentionally used these little tiny ones with just one button on it. And so
Which are easy to carry to a gig.
It's easy to carry the gig, but my thing is guitar-centric. It's not the looping thing. Because people do this beatboxing and so forth. So they're actually just going boom, 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 in a microphone, and doing everything like, boom, 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 and the harmony and stuff, overdubbing like crazy. So my thing is, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to have it be all about guitar playing, and then very simply. So, I mean, the whole loop thing is you can like... So I just recorded that, sound like that. So I'm going to start out with a little guitar with one of those, kind of maybe a loop like. It has to have a name. I'll call it number 7. And then when that's done, I'll get, this is a fairly respectable 19th century, shaped guitar with a looper, nylon strings, classical. Maybe I'll play a bossa nova on it. That's what I'm thinking. And then I'll have a stagehand bring me out my banjo that has a pickup installed in it. And then I'll do the next one on the banjo. And then maybe I'll tell a couple banjo jokes while I'm tuning it. And I'll make sure I have to tune it a little bit so I can do that. And then, like play a little bit of that while I'm tuning. And then I'll do something completely different, like a like that sort of thing, and then I'll do, for the solo on top of that loop, you see. And so for my third song, I'll have a stagehand come out with my Lamborghini Yellow Flying V guitar, which looks like I'm about to play some sort of heavy metal thing. And how do you get a heavy metal guitar player to turn down his amp?
Ask him if he can read music.
Put a sheet of music in front of
right.
him. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll play that one, and of course I'll just play some sort of dare I say, smooth jazz thing on that. But this obnoxious bright yellow flying V guitar, and then I'll walk off the stage, you see. And then maybe I'll get fired when they have the cookies and punch later on, and there's like a fairly good-sized classroom not too far from the recital hall that they usually have punch, they have juices and soda pop and sherbet, all in a big vat. And usually most of it gets dumped out later, but and cookies, So that's my plan. But anyway, that's going to be on February 6th at Coe College in Cedar Rapids. Pretty easy to find. Marquee Hall.
Tell him a gentleman is someone who can play a banjo but doesn't.
Yeah. A gentleman is someone who knows how to play the banjo but chooses not to.
Yeah.
So I'll probably do a couple of those, Try to be kind of obnoxious. Anyway, so how am I going to have a show next week from the coffee house with only Mr. Skopinski and no interns? I guess the only thing to do is to compel the staff to work on it. I suppose we could have, well, we'd have to have Sarah. Sarah, of course, is an excellent director, but she's busy.
Sometimes we have the switcher upstairs. If we did that, then I could do the cameras in the switcher. I could probably even read. I wouldn't read Keats. That wouldn't give Keats justice. I'm planning, I guess for the audience members, I've been talking about reading some John Keats, and I want to do it right, and maybe some poetry and maybe some of his letters. And so I probably wouldn't be able to do that, but if they had the switcher upstairs, I could do the cameras in the switcher. And like I said, I might be able to read something. So
I suppose if anybody's actually watching this program, if you want to come to the show next week, I don't think we can make a decision right now. I think we'll have to make it after the show or even tomorrow. But if it should come to pass that we can do the show, then certainly come down. If we can't do the show, you come down anyway, and you can sit here in the studio. We have some.
yeah. If we can't do the show at Uptown Bill's, we could
Uptown
do
Bill's.
it down here.
We'll
at
have a
the
show
studio.
tomorrow. Next week.
Yeah.
We'll have a show next week, but somebody could sit over there. We
Right.
have some theater seats over there, and you could come down here too if you want. But the big deal is going to be the April show, which is going to be a big classical guitar blowout extravaganza. As far as January, February, and March, I'm to figure something out. But
Yeah, by February we should have some interns floating around, and so then I could do Keats in February.
yeah. I mean,
Of course, no one ever tires of you playing the guitar, so that could always fill up a show right there. But
We'll see.
you also want to get some readers too.
You
so.
see, if we do the show next week upstairs, I might bring that banjo and that Lamborghini Yellow I might bring my stuff that I would do at the faculty recital and do that up
Trial
there.
run. By the way, before I go back to the control room, I just wanted to ask what became of the last time you were talking about possibly playing, was it mandolin in the Mozart opera?
Oh yeah, no, they Well, I don't, one of my students said, I never got the call about the mandolin. They went on with the show anyway, and the mandolin part didn't necessarily, according to my student who went to it, the mandolin didn't work out that well. I think, like what people call classical mandolin and Mozart, I mean, that's a classical area, isn't it? That's after the Baroque, but the student, who was a pretty good student, he said it sounded like Baroque to him. It's all Baroque to me anyway. But I think I don't know who the mandolin player was, and I hope he's not watching, and I wasn't there, and I didn't hear anything about it, but
And to clarify, it wasn't like that you had auditioned for it and you were waiting to hear back and they rejected you.
No.
They already had a player and somebody was thinking of wanting to replace that person with that. So that's how the whole topic came up.
Yeah.
So
there was like a last-minute replacement, and it would have been interesting to do. I reflect that I played Mozart. A couple times I played Mozart on mandolin. There was a Die Zither piece. It's for soprano voice and mandolin accompaniment. The mandolin doesn't strum or anything. It's all just a line, a fast line. That's 16th note quadruplets, but up and down, and around, and to go along with this kind of very melodic legato singing. And it's about in German, it's about the Zither or whatever, Die Zither. Maybe it's about the mandolin. And I did this at somebody's senior recital at the university years ago. It was kind of an interesting gig, and she got a really good grade, soprano, and she's a good singer and everything like that. And I'd almost forgotten about this, but then I played a wedding this last summer, and she was there. She had a sort of a distinctive face. I mean, nothing wrong with it. I mean, just she had like a distinctive look, and many years later, with her kids and everything like that, and she remembered me, and we talked briefly about that gig. But it was fun. I mean, there's a lot of stuff for classical mandolin. Of course, the Vivaldi mandolin concertos, which are Baroque, and then there are later things as Boccherini and Mozart, and even Beethoven wrote something for mandolin and piano, which I had the music for at home, and I had a guy who wanted to work on it, and it's kind of difficult, and he wasn't able to continue. He had a demanding job and everything. But so the classical mandolin's a beautiful thing, and not often heard.
And since you're now connected with Coe College and you know the faculty members there, I'm sure they'll call upon you at some point in the future. So it's opportunities that come up when you're in a situation like that.
Well, there are a couple of things I'd like to do. There's a Hummel Grand Sonata for mandolin and piano, and it'd be like forte piano.
He was a rough contemporary with Beethoven, classical in that
era. Yeah.
So
and so there's that piece, and of course the mandolin. And I don't want to be too boring here, but the mandolin, as we know it, came into existence about the same time as the guitar that we know it came into existence. And there's an 18th century guitar, and there was an 18th century mandolino, but they were different. The 18th century mandolin had 5 courses or 5 pairs of strings, although probably the first string was a single, but the others were doubles. But they were soft, they were gut, and then the lower ones were made with like copper wire and silk, twisted together, because they didn't have the wire making technology to make it, because like these strings, that's tight steel wire with silver plated steel, which is very, very, very thin, and spun around a nylon floss for these strings. But they couldn't do that in those days, so what it was just carefully twisted silk, or depending on which kind of mandolin it was, what era it was, silk or gut, and with copper wire twisted around it. And they used to break, and they're really hard to keep in tune. And they broke easily. Because in those days you had to hammer out the string by hand. You took a bigger piece of copper and you made it into you took a chunk of copper and turned it into a long skinny wire with a tick, 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 with a little elf gig,
labor intensive.
Yeah, handmade strings. So that was a mandolino, and that's what Vivaldi wrote for that. But the 8 strings, the 8 wire strings as we know it now, and the vaulted back looks like a pear, like half a pear with that design came about in the early 19th century, early 19th century in Italy, about the same time that the guitar, as we know it, with 6 strings, came about in Spain, but also in Italy and Germany and France. England, I guess, it became very popular. But Because the guitar before that had 5 pairs of strings, was tuned differently, and it was just for Southern European music. The thing that what classical guitar is now, they use the lute for, the Baroque lute. So playing like Bach, Leopold Weiss, they wrote for the lute, not for the guitar, because the guitar at the time wasn't anything like it is now. It was like an I wouldn't want to say overgrown ukulele, but I mean, I respect the ukulele, but it was like a very strummy thing for like Spanish music and so forth. So, and there was, of course, the Renaissance guitar, which was which is like a baritone ukulele. But, okay, so the 6-string guitar as we know it, was the very late 18th, early 19th century, and the mandolin, as we know it, came about at that same time. So there's like a classical mandolin tradition that goes back, a couple hundred years. And sort of, the mandolin kind of went out of style at the end of the 1920s. It was very popular. There were mandolin orchestras and so forth. It was used for playing all kinds of different music. And then it's like the banjo and the mandolin both kind of died in popular music at the end of the 1920s, in this country anyway. And the only people left playing it was the hillbillies. And so that when bluegrass, people think bluegrass goes way back, but bluegrass sort of emerged in the 1940s based on like old-time country music and blues. And Earl Scruggs was very, very important in that style. But the style of banjo playing, the kind of folk and old-time banjo playing, was very different from what Earl Scruggs did. But before that, the banjo was the strummy thing in the jazz band, the 1910s and 20s, and ragtime before that. And it was also a very popular parlor instrument. And the mandolin was extremely popular throughout Europe and North America. And then they all sort of died, and you didn't see very many mandolin players. But nowadays, I mean, there's mandolins having resurgence, and the banjo's having a big resurgence. So
Back in the 80s, there was that popular song, Mandolin Rain. I don't know if you remember that. I'll track down the artist. I can't remember who the artist was, but a very nice song.
yeah, somebody from the 70s, one of my students a couple of years ago came to me with a Seals and Crofts song. Seals and Crofts, they did mandolin and guitar, and they sang. They had high voices and they sang in harmony. That was it was happening then. And then, of course, in the 70s, late 70s, the band Heart, the 2 Wilson sisters,
Okay.
they played mandolin.
Yeah, they were kind of into antiquity a little bit from some of the record album covers I've seen. They're evoking old Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they had these mandolin parts in some of their songs.
So yeah, well, we will hope that you get a good mandolin gig in a context like that.
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to try to make it happen. I'd like to play the Vivaldi Mandolin Concerto again, either as a mandolinist or actually just having a mandolinist and play the orchestral part as a guitar reduction, or with a string band of all guitars instead of guitars and mandolins instead of violins and violas and cellos. Accompanying it. I'd also like to play that Hummel piece, the Grand Sonata, someday with a forte piano, and that Beethoven piece. That'd be kind of a fun show, actually, do those tunes, and get somebody to play an old-fashioned piano. They have one at Co, actually. They have got a Mozart era piano there. But I mean, it's a newer one, but they have it somewhere. And there are sort of plenty of piano players. Everywhere you look at piano players. But anyway, I'd like to do more mandolin. I really enjoy. I love that sound of the mandolin.
It is a wonderful sound.
And it's sort of where it fits in music, when you have this thing, a plectrum instrument, because it has the same notes as a violin. It's the same range, it's the same tuning as a violin. So you have that, that. And of course, you can always play violin music on a mandolin, or you play anything you want on a mandolin. Maybe I'll do some more mandolin. I have one. I was looking at it on the wall. It's getting dusty. It's acoustic electric. It doesn't sound very good when it's not plugged in, but when you plug it in, it's really easy to make it sound good. It's like this guitar sounds pretty good, I think, plugged in, and that mandolin is similar. Maybe if we do the show from next week upstairs, if we can get it, maybe I'll bring the banjo. Maybe I'll bring a mandolin.
Yes, that's a good idea.
And then a guitar,
Yeah.
and then
Good idea.
do some of these things. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd have to practice.
There you go.
I don't mind practicing.
The vacuum is already beginning to be filled.
Well, the technical staff is the problem.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
showing up and doing goofy things in front of a camera. So after 20 years, I mean, that's what you expect. But,
Yeah.
But
Anyway, I apologize. I'm not looking at you while you're talking. It's not because I'm trying to be rude, but you have a very bright fill light. It's kind of over your head there.
I see, yeah.
This is early in the day for me. It's like if you live daytime hours, this is like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and
Right,
this is
yeah.
I'm not ready for a bright light like
yeah,
that.
I understand it.
So, and the other thing, while I'm on the microphone before I go back to the studio, I want to apologize. We're having a little problems with the switcher. So there have been times when I've clicked to change cameras and it's either not done anything or it's jumped around or jumped back to the. So maybe if people are at home are noticing that, it's just a little bit of a problem we're having, and I'm sure we'll get that squared away. I'll report it to the technical staff here and see if we can get that squared away. But
Well, we'll talk to this technical staff in about 2 minutes, I think. The show's almost over, so I'm going to play something. I have to say officially goodbye to Bob, too, because... So you're leaving, like, Tuesday or next week or tomorrow?
Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah. And then you're not coming back for till what,
Be back in the middle of April.
April? Yeah. Yeah. We have usually a humdinger of a February these days, so,
Yeah, I
March.
saw what we did last year.
yeah.
I got 5 snow removal bills while I was gone last year. So,
Yeah, well, it was really something, but hope you don't get soft there in the Sin City. But you'll call us back, and
yeah.
I don't know what to say, but we've done this many times before.
Yep.
You've left us and keep going on. By the way, if anybody wants to join the crew, Tom's Guitar Show, you get plenty of experience.
Corner of South Dubuque and Lafayette.
That's right. You might just sign up for a workshop.
No, you better play us out.
Well, see you next week.